Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kim Lockett, and I'm Head of Marketing here at Knowi. Thanks for taking the time to be here today. I have with me Jay Gopalakrishna, who's CEO of Knowi, and the lovely Lorraine Williams, who's Head of Success also here at Knowi. We have an exciting 30 minutes ahead of us today, where we're going to demo a major new enhancement that we've added to the Knowi platform, which is natural language self-service analytics. And in a second, I'm going to hand it off to Jay to say a few words, and then he'll hand it off to Lorraine, and we'll get right into the demo. Before that, a couple of housekeeping items. First, we are recording the session, and we'll send it out after the event is over. Second, you're all on mute. So there is a Q&A window in the Zoom control bar, so please use that to ask your questions. We will have time at the end for Q&A. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jay and to get us started. Jay.
Thank you, Kim. Hello, everybody. So the key theme for us last quarter was around natural language processing. And this is something we've been working on for about a year and some. And this is going to be an anchor for many of the new things that will launch over the next year or so as well. And basically, what it allows for is business users to ask questions on their data and get answers and visualizations very quickly. So what we've done is on the analyze mode, you have an option to do natural language processing where you can just type in normal English queries, like what is the total sent by company for XYZ type of thing, and we will translate that and basically run queries against that data model that we've created to give you the answers right off the bat. So it's got some pretty big connotations, especially in the future, we believe, because we're going to take that and also make that part of the dashboard to be able to search across data sets. That's something we're working on at the moment, and API-fying it. So if you're embedding Knowi inside your platform, being able to have a simple search bar that you can have to do NLP type queries as well. That's coming soon. So strategically, it's an important thing that we've been working on. Very excited about to launch. And with that, I'll hand it over to Lorraine, and she'll go over the NLP side of things, along with a bunch of other features and functionality that we've been working on over the past quarter and some. So, Lorraine, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Jay. So good morning and welcome to the Q3 Knowi product update. I'm going to touch on some of the main features that have gone into the product over the last few months, but before I get into specifics, I'd just like to remind you all that full documentation and release notes can be found at docs.knowi.com. All documentation, all of it is fully searchable, so typing in a keyword or phrase here will usually get you to the right spot. Release notes can be found under the What's New section of our documentation portal here. Knowledge base is where all of our main documentation lives. And then if you have a question or would like to answer a question from another customer, then please by all means go in and visit our community forum. If all else fails, then you can still send an email to support@knowi.com. That will get our attention and we'll get to you as soon as we possibly can. And just to let you know, on our documentation portal, we have a My Tickets section. So if you already have tickets submitted into support, click on here and you'll see the status of them. And you can also raise new tickets this way as well. So let's make a start, and I'm going to head over and show you what we've been doing. So as Jay mentioned, natural language processing, the ability to bring that flexibility back to the end user is what we've been concentrating on this quarter. And so I want to show you the first iteration of that from an end user perspective. So I've navigated over to a dashboard here. And now you'll notice that on each widget, we have this new icon. This new icon is our natural language and self-service icon. It appears on every widget, so you can always get and do natural language English-based queries on each widget we have. I'm going to select this one because it's easier to visualize this. This is basically just a data grid of restaurants in the New York City area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on, as a user, I want to get some more information on this. So I'm going to click on this NLP icon right here, and it's going to take me to the underlying data. It looks very much like the widget we had. Whatever widget I would have clicked on would have brought me to the underlying data anyway. Now what we have is we have the ability. Previous to NLP, we could then drag and drop our metrics and our groupings and our filters in from the side here. But what we're doing is we're allowing you to bypass that and not do that anymore if you don't want to, and literally just type in English what you would like to get. So for example, I might just want to know, what is the count? Now, as I'm typing, the system is already suggesting what things I can do again to make it easier for me. So I might just want to know, what's the count of restaurant by borough? Well, it's already suggested that's an option for me. That's exactly what I wanted to know. I click on that and it immediately brings those results to me. So as an end user, I don't have to worry about dragging and dropping metrics into this bar anymore from this side. I don't care about that. I literally just type in what I want to know. And what I wanted to know was, how many restaurants are there by borough? And that's totally fine. Now, what I can do from here is I can then take this, and if I have privilege or if I have permission to create a new widget from this and add it to my dashboard, I can do that. So to do that, what I would do is I would select, I've already done my NLP query here. I typed it in English. I got back my basic counts. Now I want to make a new visualization from that. So I select my little visualization icon here. And what it's done is it's already suggested an appropriate type of visualization for this NLP query that I just did. The system's smart enough to know that I've got some groupings here. Maybe a pie chart would be a good representation of that. Donut will probably work as well. So basically, it's suggested for me automatically what I might want to display this data in. I could also then go and change it to whatever I wanted it to be. I don't have to go with the basics. But I think I like that donut. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clone that. I'm going to give it a new name, I'm going to call it a new widget. I'm going to clone it, and then I'm going to add it to the dashboard. Now, I'm only doing this because I actually have rights to do this. If you're a view user or something like that, I wouldn't have rights to actually create a new widget. I would still be able to do the NLP though. So here we are. I've just gone and created a new widget based upon that natural language query that I typed in. So as you can see, my original data was up here. I did NLP on it. I got the data I liked, and then I went ahead and created a new widget of that query, and I ended up adding it to the dashboard. So as you can see, this signals really the start, as Jay mentioned, this signals the start of a great new slew of NLP related features that will be coming in the coming months. We're very, very excited about it. This is really, really just the beginning. So we've also added some other neat features this quarter too. First of all, if you're not familiar with trigger notifications, they are a very powerful way to trigger an action based upon criteria that you specify on any of your data sets. So trigger notifications allow you to monitor your underlying data sets for certain conditions, and then either send email alerts or invoke external APIs to invoke some sort of new workflow, or send notifications to one or more Slack channels. This capability allows you to get your data working for you. So instead of business users having to go to a dashboard and gain insights, the insights are basically delivered to them so that they can then take the appropriate action. So how do we get to the trigger notifications? Well, we head over to our settings and to our alerts function here. Now, trigger alerts have been a premium feature of the system for a while. But we've now enhanced this feature to allow for you to have a finer control of the alerting frequency, i.e. when you wish the system to check the enter criteria. So I'm going to just set up a very basic one here. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it test, which is a very boring name. And I'm going to select the data set that I want to monitor. So I might want to monitor that restaurant's data set. Now, this data set under the hood by my data engineer might have been an amalgamation of Elasticsearch, Mongo, and MySQL and an API. Who knows? But basically, it's been brought together as one cohesive set of data that I want to monitor on a schedule. I will enter my condition here. So I might want to say, I want you to select me all the boroughs. I can't spell, boroughs, where, you know, I don't know, customer is greater than 400 or something like that. I'm making this up. So basically what we're doing is we have some kind of trigger condition that's going to monitor on a schedule this underlying data set. Now, when this is satisfied, when this criteria is met, it will do something. It will either email, and you can send the results of this criteria as a CSV attachment in the email. And by the way, it doesn't have to be a user of the system. You can email anyone at all. You can also invoke a third-party API and use those borough IDs in the post. This is used a lot, by the way. Or you can Slack, as I mentioned before, to one or more Slack channels of your choice. And again, you can also include in this case, the boroughs in that Slack notification. Now, up until now, you've always been able to run this on a schedule. What we've added in is the ability to also go to finer granularity. So no longer 15 minutes, you can, I think the lowest is 1. But not only that, we also now give you the ability to schedule when you want this alert to kick in, when you want it to start. So I might want it to start and run every 1 minute, but I don't want this to run until next Thursday, and I don't want it to start until 10 p.m. at night. So next Wednesday at 10 p.m., this trigger will start running, and it will fire every 1 minute, and it will check for this condition. And if it's met, it will then do one of these 3 things that I specified. So just to let you know that we've basically enhanced the whole trigger notification function that we already have in the system. It's very, very powerful, and you should definitely check it out. While I'm on this subject, actually, there's one other thing that we did do on trigger notifications and alerts. Before, only the owner, only the creator of an alert would be able to administer that alert. We've changed that so that now if you create an alert, you have your alert listing page here. I only have one, but you can also now share the admin rights of that alert with other people that you choose. You can explicitly say, I want my colleague to also have admin rights to this alert. So we've added that in, and also just to let you know, we've added in the exact same thing. If I navigate over to email reports, again, it used to be that the person that created the email report, the PDF that gets sent out on a schedule of your dashboards and data, would be the only one that would be able to administer it, change the schedule, delete it, and whatever. We now have also added in the ability to share admin rights also for reporting as well with other colleagues. So this is also a nice little enhancement that we've put in. Now, we've also added in a variety of enterprise level security enhancements that we've added in over the last few months. Now, the first one I'd like to talk about is Ldap support. So I'm just going to nip over to our documentation section. Please use the documentation section. It's really quite good, very searchable, and it really tries to get you to answer your questions as quickly as possible. So on Ldap, we now support the setting up of a connection with an Ldap server, which will then allow your users to log into Knowi using their Ldap credentials. Now, if you do want to use Ldap, then please contact support, and we'll be able to turn that feature on for you. So it's something that you'd need to contact us about. But once we've done that, we would help guide you through the setup, and all the information of how to do that is actually in our documentation here. Another area that we've enhanced is that of being able to configure an expiry time for a secure bed URL. So if I do a URL embed here, I go over to my documentation on URL embed. Now, we've always had the ability to do a simple URL share for a dashboard. This would make it obviously publicly accessible without a login. We also have a similar thing, but secure, where you can actually encrypt your parameters and pass those in to make that secure, that URL share or embed more secure. We've now also added in the ability to expire those links. So you can actually now set a time to life on when that link is available and when it's then expired and the user cannot use it anymore. So this is a nice little enhancement to our URL sharing that we've added in recently. Right, I'm going to nip over now to our query side of things. So we have two different types of user. We have the end user, which typically consume the dashboards, and now they can do NLP or basic English querying on their data with ease. But we also have the data engineers, the people that pull together all this data, that configure your data sources, that do multi-data source joins, that put everything in a consumer, get it ready to be consumed. And so what we've done here is on our query side, we've actually managed to add in a different type of warehousing strategy. So just to remind you, when you create a query, and I've got one here, I'm going to just quickly preview it. I'll just do 100, just so that. So what I've done here is I've got a basic query. It's a Mongo query. I've run it. I've got some stuff back. I have two options now, or your data engineers, the people that pull this together for your end users, have a couple of options now. They can either decide to run this query real time every time. So anytime a downstream chart uses this data, it will run real time. And if that's the case, we check direct query, and that's all we do. But there is another alternative. You might want to asynchronously run this. You might want to run it on a schedule. And then if you do that, cache these results, store these results each time in Knowi's own warehouse, or what we like to call our Elastic Store. Now, if you do that, then your warehousing strategy would be here. We would go into the scheduling, and this is basically saying, I don't want to run it real time. I want to run it asynchronously on a schedule. Now, this one is currently set to run every month. And the overwrite strategy is all. And what that's saying is every month, I want you to run this query, this Mongo query I have here, and it could be a long join query, whatever you want. And the results, I want you to then overwrite each time. So take the contents of what's already in my Elastic Store and completely overwrite with the fresh set. But I also have other strategies too. I could also say that I wanted to only do it, I only want to do changes. Don't overwrite everything every time, just overwrite changes. Or I might want to configure my query in a way that I only get incremental changes to append to my cached or stored warehouse data. So there's lots and lots of options on the overwrite strategy here. What we've now added in, and that's been there for a while, but what we've now added in is a retention policy. So what we're allowing you to do now is basically specify how far back you want to retain your data. So for example, I have a date field here in my results set, and I might want to basically say, if I put date -1M, what that is telling the system to do is just remove all existing rows in my cached or in my Elastic Store which have date fields that are less than 1 month before the minimum value of the incoming date field. So all I'm really doing is it's allowing me to tidy up my data so that I don't store data unnecessarily, and I only really want to store data from 1 month to now. And our overwrite strategies can be combined, and I would suggest that you again head over to docs.knowi.com and check out our retention policies over there, and that will show you how you can make full use of this overwrite strategy if you're doing asynchronous and not real-time queries. On the UI side of things, the ability to display time series charts. Let's go back to my time series chart here. I think I have one somewhere. Here we go. This is one here. So I have a basic bar chart here. This is a basic time series chart. As you can see, it's in English. My months are in English. We've actually added in something very small, but it's actually quite useful for embedded use cases. The display of the time series charts can be changed. It can be now localized for a user by selecting the locale option under the user settings. So for a particular user, I could go into my user settings, and then we have a new option here called locale. Currently it's English. I can change that to something else. We currently support French and German as well. So I might want to change it to French, and I'll update my locale. And then if I go back to my, my dashboard, hopefully, let me see. Okay, en français maintenant. So now it's in French, and not only that, but it also allows you on the filtering of that widget, for example, on that date, to then say, to then allow you to, it changes the filtering options to be basically in that language, in that locale that you specified. So again, this is useful for embedded dashboard and widget modes, and this will render anytime series chart selected in the locale specified. And again, as I said before, the current locales supported are English, French, and German. And then finally, what I'd like to show you is one of my favorite toolkits in the whole of the Knowi platform, which is our Cloud9 QL toolkit. I'm going to go here back to our documentation. Cloud9 QL is absolutely fantastic. I use it all the time. It's very, very powerful. It's just a whole bunch of functions that do a lot of the heavy lifting for you, especially more if you're more on the data engineering side, I have to say. But in order to just transform and enhance your data and derive new data from your existing data sets, it's fantastic. And what we've done is we've added in some new delta date functions. So you can now do things like minutes delta or hours delta. So, you know, basically the number of minutes between two dates or the number of months between two dates as literal functions now. So you'll no longer have to grapple with the resultant millisecond conversions that I've been doing up until now when dealing with date comparisons. It's all done for you. And we also have a regex replace as well, which allows you to act on any field. So if you're the data engineer in the audience, this is for you. Check out our new Cloud9 QL Delta functions in there. So I think that's just about all from me. Thank you for taking the time today to hear what's new with Knowi. As you may or may not know, we do release weekly. We release fixes and features weekly. They're being added all of the time, typically on a Friday. And so with that, I'd now like to hand you all back over to Kim for any Q&A you may have.
Great. Thank you, Lorraine. As Lorraine said, so we have about 5 or so minutes for Q&A. If you have a question, please type it in the Q&A box from your control bar. We do have a couple already. So Lorraine Lorraine or Jay, on the NLP stuff, is that feature available for everyone regardless of what license they have?
Yes, it is. It is available for everybody. And what I did show you guys was on the dashboards, on the widgets themselves, this new NLP icon. We also have it on the queries as well. So if you're a data engineer pulling all of this together, I'm just going to go into my queries and get one up. And I do my little preview to see what my data looks like. We also have it here too. And this is handy for a data engineer pulling it together to just do those ad hoc queries to make sure the data is looking like it should. It's just really a shorthand way of instead of doing the drag and drop. So just wanted to make sure that you know that it's also on the query building side of things as well, above the preview grid. And yes, it is available for everybody. Okay,
great. Another question related to NLP, and maybe this is more for Jay talking. It's basically asking more about the roadmap. So, can you elaborate a little bit more about? I mean, this is the first iteration. The questions around like, will the user always have to know the widget in order to do the NLP, or is there some plan to bring it up to maybe the dashboard level?
Sure. So let me answer that. So the couple of things we're working on at the moment. One is being able to do NLP across all your associated data sets. So that should be in place in the next couple of months, let's say. And then also we are going to put an API around it. So things like, for example, one of our customers wants to use Slack and have people ask questions through Slack and get answers back. So that's also things that we have slated to be looked at as well, and also being able to embed that and have that as a filter option where people can type in natural language queries at the top instead of having to do a filter setup. That's also in the roadmap as well.
Okay, great. We have a question from Laurent around the browser support. So what browsers do we support? He specifically mentioned Mozilla and Safari.
Yeah, it's available on all modern browsers. So anything that's somewhat modern over the last few years, we have support for.
Okay, great. And then this one's maybe for you, Lorraine. On the trigger alerts, can you have multiple actions? So there's 3 options, but could you have one alert trigger multiple actions there? So not just email or not just a webhook, but like an email and a webhook, for example. I think you're on mute, Lorraine, maybe.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was figuring out how to get off of mute. Very sorry about that. Right now, I think it's, Jay, correct me if I'm wrong. Right now, I think it's either or. I don't know if you can have several off of one trigger notification.
You can, yeah. So you can send an email as well as a webhook. So you can have multiple actions, yeah.
Okay, perfect. A follow-up from the browser question. Have you tested it with Internet Explorer 11? Because of there's some memory leak issues there?
It has. So we use a toolkit called Browser Stack, and we run through a bunch of tests on that, using that. So, and I believe IE11 is part of that stack too. I'll need to check with the team, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So one last question around the Ldap stuff. So to get started, I think you mentioned this, Lorraine, actually, when you spoke. To get started, it's a email into support, right? For folks that need the Ldap support.
Yes, yeah. If you can just send us an email to support@knowi.com, we'll take care of you.
As always.
Yeah.
All right, that seems to be the last of the questions, I think. So with that, I'm going to thank Lorraine and Jay for coming, and of course, all of you. And I wish you a good rest of your day. Thanks very much.